and remain standing until the conclusion of the reading of the proclamation. Ladies and gentlemen, the proclamation. All persons having any business before this honorable court, please draw nigh. Give your attendance, and you shall be heard. God save the Queen.
Admission of lawyers. 1. Gabriel Alcantara.
May it please the court, I move that Juan Gabriel Alcantara be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
That Juan Gabriel Alcantara be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Nicole Antoon.
May it please this court, I move that Nicole Antoon be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Nicole Antoon be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Peter Ian Archibald.
May it please the court, I move that Peter Ian Archibald be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Peter Ian Archibald be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Alexandra Mackenzie Baker.
May it please the court, I move that my daughter, Alexandra Mackenzie Baker, be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Alexandra Mackenzie Baker be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Cavill Sydney Borgia.
May it please this court, I move that Cavill Sydney Borgia be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Cavill Sydney Borgia be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Natalie Yunzin Chua.
May it please the court, I move that Natalie Junjin Chua be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Natalie Junjin Chua be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Mohammed El Harris.
May it please the court, I move that Mohammed El Harris be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Mohammed El Harris be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Zainab Hamka.
May it please the court, I move that Zainab Hamka be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Zainab Hamka be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Felicity Ella Hawkes.
May it please the court, I move that Felicity Ella Hawkes be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Felicity Ella Hawkes be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Sarah Heckhoff.
May it please the court, I move that Sarah Heckhoff be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Sarah Heckhoff be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Olivia Christie Henderson.
May it please the court, I move Olivia Christie Henderson to be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Olivia Christie Henderson be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Samuel James Hutchinson.
May it please the court, I move that my son, Samuel James Hutchinson, be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Samuel James Hutchinson be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Joseph Inigo Johnson.
May it please the court, I move that Joseph Inigo Johnson be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Joseph Inigo Johnson be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Megan Elizabeth Jones.
May it please the court, I move that Megan Elizabeth Jones be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Megan Elizabeth Jones be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Risha Kaushal.
May it please the court, I move that Richard Corshall be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Richard Corshall be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Hyo Yon Kim.
May it please the court, I move that my friend and colleague Yo Yon Kim be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Hyo Yon Kim be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Daniel Yong-Soo Lee Antiato.
May it please the court, I move that Daniel Yong-Soo Lee Aniseto be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Daniel Yong-Soo Lee Aniseto be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Gabriela Paz Mancilla Concha.
May it please the court, I move that Gabriela Paz Mancilla Concha be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Gabriela Paz Mancilla Concha be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Annika Matin.
May it please the court, I move that Annika Matin be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Annika Matin be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Jenna McConaughey.
May it please the court, I move that Jenna McConaughey be admitted as a lawyer of this
Let Jenna McConaughey be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Hugh James McLaurin.
May it please the court, I move that my brother, Hugh James McLaurin, be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Hugh James McLaurin be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
James Mitri.
May it please the court, I move that my son James Mitri be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let James Mitri be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Huda Hersi Muhammad Hilo.
May it please the court, I move that Huda Hersi Muhammad Hiloy be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Huda Hersi Muhammad Hiloy be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Alana Louise Mulatotis.
May it please this court, I move that Alana Louise Muliatis be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Alana Louise Mulatsiatis be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Darapisef CJ Nem.
May it please the court, I move that Darapis C.J. Nim be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Darapise C.J. Nim be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Caleb Benjamin O'Connor.
May it please the court, I move that Caleb Benjamin O'Connor be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable
Let
court.
Caleb Benjamin O'Connor be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Fiona Ann Piliotis.
May it please the court, I move that Fiona Ann Piliotis be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Fiona Ann Piliotis be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Clementine Juliet Moriarty Robertson.
May it please the court, I move that my daughter, Clementine Juliet Moriarty Robertson, be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Clementine Juliet Moriarty Robertson be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Gaurav Serene.
May it please this court, I move that Gaurav Serene be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable
Let
court.
Gaurav Serene be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Carly-Ann Margaret Selby James.
May it please this court, I move that Carly Ann Margaret Selby James be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Carly Ann Margaret Selby James be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Tamar Yona Shifroni.
I move that Tamar Yona Shifroni be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Tamar Yona Shifrani be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Anwesha Sinha.
May it please the court, I move that Anwisha Singer be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Anwisha Sinha be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Anna Catherine Skelly.
May it please the court, I move that my daughter Anna Catherine Skelly be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Anna Catherine Skelly be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Christine Song.
May it please the court, I move that Christine Song be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Christine Song be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Kush Sood.
May it please the court, I move that Kush Sood be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Kush Sood be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Sigmund Stern.
May it please the court, I move that Sigmund Stern be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Sigmund Stern be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Alice Annette Strauss.
May it please the court, I move that Alice Annette Strauss be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Alice Annette Strauss be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Ryan Chujono.
May it please the court, I move that Ryan Chujono be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Ryan Chujono be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Emily Lauren Ward.
May it please the court, I move that Emily Lauren Ward be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Emily Lauren Ward be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Rosemary Webb.
May it please the court, I move that Rosemary Weeby be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Rosemary Weeby be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
David Ross Whitehouse.
May it please the court, I move that David Ross Whitehouse be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let David Ross Whitehouse be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Donna Marie Willis.
May it please the court, I move that Donna Willis be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Donna Marie Willis be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Laura Frances Warrad.
May it please the court, I move that Laura Frances Warrad be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Laura Frances Warrad be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Quan Yuan.
May it please the court, I move that Huang Yuan be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
let Quan Wan be admitted as a lawyer of this court. I also admit as lawyers of the court the following persons who have completed a special process for admissions in absentia: Georgette Bakara, Zong Shu Dong, John Paul Florio, Bufan Lu, Heng Ronald Luk, Ching Kwan Koryo Luk, Sahil Mongia, Declan Michael Pluim, Jovan Srinik, Xinjia Sun, Yung Lin Tu. It will now be necessary for those applicant whose admission has just been moved in court to stand as directed and remain standing for the purposes of swearing an oath or making a declaration or affirmation. So please stand as directed by the officiating officer.
Could the first and second rows on my right please stand? Juan Gabriel Alcantara, Nicole Antoon, Peter Ian Archibald, Alexandra Mackenzie Baker, Cavill Sydney Borgia, Natalie Yun Zin Chua, Mohammed El Harris, Zainab Hemka, Felicity Ella Hawkes, Sarah Heckhoff, Olivia Christie Henderson, Samuel James Hutchinson, Joseph Inigo Johnson, Megan Elizabeth Jones, Richa Kaushal, Hyo Yeon Kim. Do you severally swear or declare and affirm that you will truly and honestly conduct yourselves in the practice of a lawyer of the Supreme Court of New South Wales, and that you will faithfully serve as such in the administration of the laws and usages of this state according to the best of your knowledge, skill, and ability? Please say, "So help me God," or "I do."
I do.
Thank you. Please sit down. And could rows 3 and 4 to my right please stand? Daniel Yongsu Lee Arnisito, Gabriella Paz Manchila Concha, Annika Matten, Jenna McConaughey, Hugh James McLaurin, James Mitri, Huda Hersi Mohammed Hilal, Elena Louise Mulachotis, Darapisef CJ Nem, Caleb Benjamin O'Connor, Fiona Ann Piliotis, Clementine Juliet Moriarty Robertson, Gaurav Serene, Carly Ann Margaret Selby James, Tamar Yona Shifroni, Anwesha Sinha, Anna Catherine Skelly, Christine Song, Kush Sud. Do you severally swear or declare and affirm that you will truly and honestly conduct yourselves in the practice of a lawyer of the Supreme Court of New South Wales, and that you will faithfully serve as such in the administration of the laws and usages of this state according to the best of your knowledge, skill, and ability? Please say, "So help me God," or "I do." Thank you. Please sit down. And could the 2 rows to my left please stand up? Sigmund Stern, Alice Annette Strauss, Ryan Chujono, Emily Lauren Ward, Rosemarie Webby, David Ross Whitehouse, Donna Marie Willis, Laura Frances Warrad, and Quan Yuan. Do you severally swear or declare and affirm that you will truly and honestly conduct yourselves in the practice of a lawyer of the Supreme Court of New South Wales, and that you will faithfully serve as such in the administration of the laws and usages of this state according to the best of your knowledge, skill, and ability? Would you please say, "So help me God," or "I do"?
So help me God.
Thank you. Please sit down.
Well, may I warmly welcome you all to the Banco Court of the Supreme Court of New South Wales, our ceremonial court, but also a working court. Present with me on the bench today are 2 of the court's most senior judges, Justice Davies to my right, and Justice Schmidt to my left, both of the Common Law Division of the court. Together we constitute the court that has, in the exercise of its jurisdiction, admitted you, the newly admitted lawyers, to practice this morning. We have done so sitting on land which the Gadigal of the Eora Nation have cared for and been custodians of for thousands of years, and the court, of course, pays its respects, sincere respects, to the Gadigal elders past and present, and extends those respects to all First Nations people. In the spirit of the Uluru Statement from the Heart, which looks forward to a fuller expression of Australia's nationhood with great dignity, we acknowledge the regrettable reality that the nation's laws and legal systems have so often in the past delivered the opposite or less than justice to First Nations people. Well, to all the newly admitted lawyers here this morning, welcome to the legal profession. Today is one for great celebration. You've all, we know, worked extremely hard to get here. Countless late nights of study, obscure problem questions, wafer-thin pages of textbooks or screens, and more cases than you can hope ever to remember. We certainly don't. Can't, I should say. And for most of you, your journey here today has involved these last two extraordinarily challenging final years of your studies or qualification affected by the pandemic, in which you've been, I suspect, deprived of many of the opportunities for the forging of close bonds with your peers that those final years usually present. So you have faced and come through an additional challenge, adversity unprecedented in our lifetimes, and that makes your achievements recognised today by your admission all the more impressive, and it makes the resilience that you have undoubtedly developed means that that resilience will stand you well into the future. So this morning, in being admitted as a lawyer of this court, you join an honourable and ancient profession with the custom we've followed this morning of advocates swearing an oath on admission to practice dating back to the 12th century. This court first admitted lawyers as long ago as 1824, and by 1830 the names of lawyers were entered onto the rolls in this state, just as you will do immediately after this ceremony. I'm also pleased to welcome those with you today or watching on the live stream. For many of you, their support and the support of your friends and family will have been invaluable, and no doubt they have been on the receiving end of your finely polished or developing skills of argument and persuasion. And I encourage you to take the time today to thank them. Depending upon how good an advocate you have become, you might even convince them to shout you lunch or dinner to celebrate the day. Well, as you know, the law touches virtually every part of our society, and it can and will lead you all in many different directions and career paths. But in whatever direction you head, you must always remember that the oath or affirmation that you have just made is a serious one and deserves solemn regard. Whether you work in private practice, at the bar, in a community legal centre for legal aid, in a Crown Law office or a government department or agency, or indeed even in an entirely different field, you should be known as lawyers for your honesty, your integrity and your commitment to justice. And you must strive at all times to uphold these cardinal values. This is because admission as a member of the legal profession is a privilege and not a right. And it is in acknowledgement of the weighty responsibility that we have observed today's unique formalities, including the fact that your admission has been moved by someone who is already a member of the legal profession, and also by the fact that you have made a formal oath or affirmation in the presence of your family and peers. So they have all become witnesses to the promises and solemn undertakings you have made today. As to formality, you'll see from some of the portraits on the walls of this court that we are wearing the same robes, in some cases literally, as have been worn by our predecessors. Symbolically, that highlights the continuity of the rule of law in New South Wales for 200 years, although the judges wearing the robes are now drawn from an increasingly diverse pool. As to continuity of the rule of law, in a world in which there is much global uncertainty and insecurity, the rule of law is more important than ever. It's not simply a phrase of some theoretical import. The rule of law is the opposite of the arbitrary abuse of power and the rule of autocratic dictators and populists. And we know there is nothing theoretical about those phenomena. Although we mark this morning's occasion with formality and tradition of which I've spoken, not everything in the legal profession remains unchanging. The pandemic, for example, has meant a rapid shift to increased use of virtual courtroom setups and technology to ensure that access to justice continued in the midst of the pandemic, whilst open justice, effective communication and fairness to participants was not compromised. And developments in technology have afforded greater workplace flexibility, which we recognise is especially important to lawyers with family responsibilities. It also has profound implications for access to justice and the reach of the law and the work of the courts in particular. Although the increased use of technology of which I've spoken offers a number of advantages, it's important to remember that the practice of the law has human nature and human interactions at its core. An essential part of being a good lawyer is understanding people, how others react to different situations, perform under pressure, and deal with each other. And as I said in my recent swearing-in speech as Chief Justice, while the remote practice of the law may be possible, it is far from desirable. This is a profession where personal interaction is key. There are, of course, other changes apart from those brought about by the pandemic that are worth drawing attention to on an occasion such as this. When we think about the diversity of the legal profession, for example, we encounter a duality. On the one hand, we have come a long way. On the other hand, much still needs to be done. For example, and this seems extraordinary to think, but was the fact, women were originally not even permitted to practice law. But since 2018, women have made up more than half of all solicitors with a practicing certificate in New South Wales and currently make up 2/3 of all solicitors under the age of 30. And women occupy many of the most senior positions of the law, including the Chief Justice of the High Court of Australia, the Chief Justices of Victoria, Queensland and the ACT, the President of our Court of Appeal, and the current Commonwealth and State Directors of Public Prosecution, as well as the Senior Public Defender in New South Wales. There should also be strong representation of lawyers from many different backgrounds, from the many different backgrounds which comprise our cosmopolitan community. Diverse representation amongst solicitors, barristers and judges assists in ensuring that all people who become involved in our justice system can and feel that they can be properly heard and fairly engaged with by a system which itself reflects our broader community. The admissions ceremonies on which I have sat since becoming a judge almost 4 years ago, including this ceremony, highlight, I think, that there is a far greater diversity of background amongst junior lawyers than there was when I commenced practice. And that is a very good thing indeed. And the leaders of the profession, and including of the courts, are working hard to foster inclusiveness and diversity in the legal profession. You, the newly admitted lawyers, enter the profession at a time when I think more than ever your words and actions are having an impact for good. You are being heard and taken seriously when you agitate to correct injustices, whether it be speaking out about unfair laws, systemic failings affecting our society's most vulnerable, or unsustainable working cultures, sexual harassment, or bullying. You should speak up for the things that matter and in which you believe. That is a very fine aspect of the tradition of being a lawyer. I would also urge you to engage with your communities outside your immediate jobs. Your training as a lawyer in systematic thought, your appreciation of the importance of matters of principle and fundamental fairness and due process equip you very well for service beyond day-to-day practice and in the wider community. And I can speak from personal experience that involvement and engagement beyond your day-to-day job, but using your skills as lawyers can be, indeed will be, extremely rewarding and satisfying. Now, turning from opportunities to obligations and a little bit of friendly advice. As a lawyer, you will often need to make difficult ethical decisions. You must use the tools you have developed to think critically and not compromise on your fundamental duties to the court and the administration of justice. In this context, one mistake you must not make is to give your clients the advice that you think they want to hear. That will not be good advice. Justice Gageler, before he was a High Court judge, once said, and I quote, "You must be prepared to give the same answer to the same question for the same reasons, no matter who asks the question or for what purpose or in what context the asking may occur." That bit of advice from that very fine judge is spot on in my view. Being a lawyer means that you are an advisor, a problem solver, a mediator, and an advocate. And as you go about your day-to-day work, remember that you're not merely dealing with the law in a vacuum, but the law as it applies to people's lives. An individual who comes to you in need of your services as a lawyer will in most cases be an individual facing some kind of great personal challenge or crisis affecting his or her liberty, property, personal well-being, or health or financial position. For these reasons, you must always strive to deliver legal services sensitively, competently and fearlessly, of course, but always with courtesy and integrity. And in that context, I wish to emphasise the importance of the old-fashioned concept of civility. Aspects of the law, especially if you're involved in the litigation side of practice, are confrontational. The practice of the law can be stressful and demanding enough without personal animus and antagonism between practitioners adding to the load. So it's essential that you at all times maintain your detachment, balance and good humour, remembering at all times that you are members of a profession and not a business. And remember this also, the best advocates can and do make their point simply and succinctly. Often less is more. Some of the most experienced lawyers and judges, for that matter, could also use that reminder from time to time, and I don't exclude myself from that. For a non-lawyer, law is remote, often incomprehensible. And one of your roles, one of your very important roles as a lawyer will be to make the law accessible to others, sometimes by deciphering legal complexities, other times dealing with poor legal drafting, and sometimes both. I urge you to strive to be clear and concise at all times, both in your writing and your speaking. It's a great skill and a great benefit. At various points in your career, you will make mistakes, some minor, some more serious, and we all do from time to time, especially when we start out on something new, as you are doing. What's important to remember is to not make the same mistake twice. And if you do make a mistake, your commitment to honesty, integrity, and the administration of justice means that you must take responsibility where you can and learn from those errors. I would like to emphasise that in the practice of the law, your physical and mental health are both extremely important. There may be, and I dare say will be, times when you feel overwhelmed, burnt out, or distressed. Legal practice can be all-consuming and physically and mentally taxing. Now, that's often because lawyers become very committed to their clients and their cases and want to go the extra mile, and that's a very admirable characteristic of lawyers. But it can come with costs in terms of time and health. So you must work hard to keep your balance and also keep an eye out to ensure that your colleagues do as well. If you do get overwhelmed by it all, as frankly we all have from time to time and still do, try to take a step back, recapture some perspective, or suggest gently to your colleagues that they do so if you think they are working too hard. In this context, also remember that the legal profession is a highly collegiate one, and in times of difficulty, the support and friendship of your peers will prove invaluable. I'd also say that both the Law Society of New South Wales and the New South Wales Bar Association, our two professional bodies, are very well attuned to the demands of practicing law, and they offer great institutional support, particularly for people entering the legal profession for the first time. So become involved in their activities and be aware of the benefits, the great benefits and support they offer. Well, can I say this to you all in closing? The law is a wonderful profession. It's stimulating, it's challenging, and satisfying, and it's populated by intelligent, committed, and dynamic people such as yourselves. You should be proud to be a lawyer and of your achievements to date. You should remain proud to be a lawyer. It is a very important profession, and you are now a very important part of it. So hold your heads high and the very best of luck on the exciting journey that lies ahead. On behalf of Justice Davies, Justice Smith, and all of our colleagues on the Supreme Court, I once again congratulate you all on your admission and welcome you to the profession. Thank you. The court will now adjourn.
All stand. This honourable court is now adjourned. God save the Queen.